Hey guys, welcome to another Jamaican Tales video, a Jamaican living in Germany. In this video, I want to talk about something that has been fascinating me since I moved to Germany, and it's daylight savings time. So on Sunday, the time changed. Wait, I can always forget it. In spring, it's spring forward, and in fall, it's fall back. So right, we jump back 1 hour, which means that we're now having winter time in Germany. And yeah, I know daylight savings time is not necessarily the thing that most people will talk about, but yeah, I find it to be very intriguing, and that's exactly why I want to talk about it. So just give me some time to explain. Daylight savings is not observed in Jamaica, but surprisingly, while I was researching for this video, I actually discovered that daylight savings was observed in Jamaica from 1974 to 1983. And I'm just so happy that this madness ended 9 years before I was born. Most Jamaicans are familiar with the idea of daylight savings time because we have many family members and friends living in countries that do observe daylight savings. The confusion, of course, is what time is it in America, what time is it in Canada or UK, and then we're like, oh, what's the time difference? Is it 6 or is it 7? Is it 1 or is it, and so on. So we're kind of familiar with it. In 1784, there was a guy called Benjamin Franklin, and he wrote a letter to the Journal of Paris, and he was saying, hey, you know what would be good is if we actually implement daylight savings time so that we can save candles, because then people would wake up and the sun would be shining, so they don't necessarily need to use candles. The interesting thing about what he did was that was all satire. He wasn't really serious about it, he was just joking about it. That's how it kind of started, as in the foundation of it all, and then throughout the years there were different attempts from different people suggesting that daylight savings would be the answer to a lot of different problems. But I kind of really find it interesting. I mean, I consider it personally, daylight savings to be a joke. And it's interesting, it really started out as a joke. Of course, for people that grew up observing daylight savings time, it's completely normal. For someone like me, for most of my life, I'm accustomed to just there being one time for the entire year, and then coming to a place where the time just changes all of a sudden. You're like, what? Yeah, people here, I mean, a German or somebody else in a country that observes it, it's no big deal, but just think about it from my perspective, where at one point in the year you have a day that is 23 hours, and then later that year you have a day that's 25 hours. I mean, come on. The first time I experienced it, it kind of really messed up my perception of time and my understanding of what time is, because I don't know, it just kind of felt, crossing the border a bit. Just a thought that governments or whosoever can just say, you know what, it's not 2 o'clock right now, you know what, it's gonna be 3 o'clock as of now. I mean, that's just kind of crazy. I've always been fascinated about it, and this is probably the main reason why just about every time there is a time change, I stay up just to see the time change. It sounds crazy, I am crazy, and yeah, we all know this. To this day, I just find it to be one of the craziest things, and I'm just so fascinated about the very idea that this is even happening. This time around, I decided to take the daylight savings tradition to a different level. Instead of observing in the comfort of my bed under my blanket, I decided to go outside.
Can you see that? Yeah. 207, and I'm gonna start to run. I'm gonna run for 10 kilometers.
It's kind of funny like how Nike app shows it, where it shows that I went running from 208 to 212, and I did 10 kilometers in 1 hour. If you were supposed to show someone this information and say, okay, this person actually went running for 5 minutes, they would be like, that's just crazy. And that's exactly what my reaction is to the very idea of daylight savings. Back at at the university, I had some international friends that really struggled with daylight savings. They had absolutely no idea about it. Like, they didn't even think about it, and of course they were showing up late for certain things and so on. It can be a really frustrating and challenging thing when you're not accustomed to it. I've done many studies and they found that there are different effects that daylight savings has, not just on the body but on the economy and so on, because it complicates a lot of things. It complicates timekeeping. So for things that are critical and they require this time, then you can have problems. For example, with traveling, where schedules get mixed up because of daylight saving. It still happens for me sometimes. Or even like billing and medical devices and so on, or even some of these analog clocks and so. It's like, how do you even change those clocks? And I can just imagine the frustration it must have been like back in the days, years ago, when you had mostly analog clocks, and then daylight savings came around and you had to go around and change all the clocks in the house or all the clocks at the train stations and so on, and the churches. I'm like, yeah, I'm surprised that despite all that frustration that they still kept it for this long. On my camera, I don't think I've even changed the time, so I probably should check that. Maybe it changes automatically. I don't even know. You see, these are the things that I should not be worried about or concerned about. One of the number one effects on the body is, of course, that it affects the circadian rhythm. So that's just kind of our 24-hour clock within our body. And this is 100% my experience. Every year after I enjoy, watching the time change before my eyes, I know that for a week or two, I'm not gonna sleep very well because my body gets so confused. I'm a morning person and I kind of need to have, the sun, and when the time changes, then my body just gets really confused. And then your body somehow doesn't get the message that, hey, it's not 2 o'clock anymore, it's actually 3 o'clock. Then it also affects so many other things in terms of my mood, and there's a little bit of depression that comes with it because then I'm not sleeping well and then I'm having all these weird dreams and so on. So it's not a fun time for me after the fun of seeing the time change. Ultimate question is, when are they going to get rid of daylight savings time? Back in March 2019, they actually made the decision to get rid of daylight savings time. But of course, the next big question is, which one do you keep? Do you keep the summertime? Do you keep the winter time? Most people, and I also saw this survey that they did from YouGov, and they found that in Germany, like 71% of the people that they surveyed, they actually want to get rid of it. I think most of the population is like, it's just pointless effort that we have. I hope they come to a conclusion about what should be done, and I hope they find a time and they just stick to it, because yeah, I can understand why they implemented it in the first place, and some of the reasons do make sense, but I'm not sure if those reasons are still valid in 2022 and beyond. That's just my little ramble about daylight savings time, but I would love to hear from you guys. I mean, some of you might be in countries that observe it or countries that don't observe it. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this very idea of daylight savings, and especially like from the Germans and stuff. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments. Let's continue the conversation down below. And thank you guys so much for watching the video, and see you in the next Jamaican Tales video.